Welcome everyone. Safety inspection and auditing is the premises that we will be discussing today in this presentation. Yes, we are going to talk about the safety inspections and what are the things that needs to be marked or checked into the checklist thereby. So why do safety inspection we need to do around it, or why safety audit is a mandatory requirement? Because this shows that the leadership is visible, the leadership is concerned about safety, the leadership is concerned about their employees. We are looking at hazard recognitions. Remember, accident prevention's responsibility is that of an employer who needs to initiate, maintain such program as may be necessary to comply with this part. Such programs shall provide for the frequent, regular inspections of the job site, material, equipment to be made by the competent person designated by the employers. Employees' involvement are in buy-in, are in the ownerships and the empowerment. Remember, that is what employee is all about it. But safety primarily is a concern of an employer. It is with an OSHA compliance, occupational safety and hazard analysis compliance thereby. When looking for hazard, we need to look at an entire operation, or should we be more specific as to the hazard prone area? Should it be on a team orientations, or should it be an individual ask? So we need to review the occupational safety and hazard analysis program to ensure compliance. Look for hazard, general safety hazard, ergonomic hazard, industrial hygiene hazard, the case might be. The best way to control hazard is to eliminate the hazard, remove the workers from the immediate area of dangers, guard the hazard, train and instruct the employees, use of personal protective equipment as the case might be. So yes, we are talking about eliminations of the hazard, the removal of the workers from the immediate areas of dangers, guarding the hazard, thereby train, instruct the employees as on basis. Look at the inspections. What are the things that we need to keep in mind? We need to go for a fact finding mission rather than a fault finding mission. We don't need to fix a person as to blame for blaming. We need to ensure that is it a problem of with the conditions of the environment, work environment, or is it because of an act or the behavioral problem of the employee? So it should be more of a fact finding versus a fault finding. We are going on inspection on based on the sound knowledge of the plant is equipment, structures of all the premises of the factories, the knowledge of the relevant standards and the codes thereof. We are looking at systematic inspection step, proper step by step inspection of the equipment, whether this needs to be done, of the hazardous material, whether they have been handled carefully and as per the prescription or the standard laid thereof. The methods of evaluating data is looking at the inspection. Let us understand the negativities of inspection, the limitations, the demerits of inspection. It is almost like a blinder effect because we are only concerned with the steps, with the policies, with the procedures, with the prescription. Probably we are not investigating, or in other words, we are going through the motions. So that is what is often known as a blinder effect or the routine inspection, as the case might be. All check, but probably no action. So basically, we are going for a checklist and probably ticking the check boxes thereof, but probably who is inspecting? That is one that comes around it. Yes, the advantages. What are the advantages, or should I say, the outcome of inspection for safety audit or safety inspection? It means there is an improved safety. It means there is confidence building measures among the employees. There are ways to find up new ways to do the job. Probably the equipments have been outdated and new technology needs to be brought in, change in the physical condition. Probably the work procedures, or even the reducing the frequencies of the dangerous job. Should I say, if reducing the frequency, or let's say the exposures of hazardous environment should be reduced as much as possible. So new ways to do the job. One by one, let us describe each one of them, determine the work goals of a job, then probably analyze the various ways of reaching those goals to see which one is the safest. Absolutely spick and span. Consider work saving tools and equipment on when on basis. Let us look at the physical condition. If probably if there are lack of lightning, lack of ventilations, lack of movement of air, probably then you need to change the work condition environment and ensure that it is properly lit. There's a proper ventilation, there is a proper decorum of sound absorption. If the audio is too high, the tools, the material, the equipment layout or location is what we are looking at it. We need to study those changes carefully for other benefits, cost and time saving as on when on. Yes, there is a change in the work procedure. If it is a behavioral problem, it is because of the act that an accident occurs. What should the worker do to eliminate such an hazard? Is the biggest question that we need to go around it. We need to have install a standard operating procedures, and how should it be done? Is what the question is all about. It document changes in detail as on when. Reduce frequency of dangerous jobs? Definitely yes. We are talking what can be done to reduce the frequency of the job. If there, if it can be eliminated, well, go ahead with it. If it cannot be eliminated, can we reduce the frequency or the number of times that the person is exposed to the hazardous elements situation, or perhaps the materials involved into it. Identify the part that causes frequent repair. Probably, if required, change that equipment altogether. Reduce vibration, save machine parts as on basis. Now, let us understand of performing safety audits. Safety audit is guides for personal audit then and there. We are talking the guides have 5 steps. One, that of audit. Second is all about reactions or react. Third is all about communication or perforations of informations to every person involved in the vicinity. Fourth will be follow up as what have you done with the communication, audit, and reaction thereof, and let us raise the standards then and there. So the guide has 5 steps of audit, react, communicate, follow up, and raise. Now, what are we looking in the audit form is get into one of the work areas on a regular basis. How do you go across it? Develop your own system. Do not combine a safety audit with other visits as such. We are looking for other visits per se. Audit must be designed to evaluate safety. What are we looking as a safety purpose? We need to take notes. We need to find the outcomes on when on basis. Once done of the auditing, as once identify the hazardous material situations or environmental, we need to give our reactions as to take proper precautions towards it. So how do you react to the strongest element in improving the safety culture is the question that you need to be answered it, because it is your reaction that tells what is acceptable and what is not. We must all find a way of from each inspection. Let us understand which all things are acceptable, which all things are not acceptable, which all things are deteriorated over a period of time, and probably the other way around as improved over a period of time. If we can find the cause and effect relationship, probably we are trying to pinpoint and the sources of accident and probably it all the go. So communicate, read it, write it, speak about it, get yourself trained as on when on basis is the best way in order to be more productive. Your subordinate co-workers must understand that you have already inspected the, their area, that particular person's areas who is working under you. It you are pleased, or probably the other way around, if by what you have actually seen, let us try to understand. You expect him or her to react to your comments and to improve over a period of time. You will audit the areas again and again in a specific days. Let us do the follow up of the processes thereby. Now, what is meant by follow up? So, we have audited, we have reacted, we have communicated. All these 3 steps have been done. Now is the stage where people have adopted or not. Adopted the procedures, adopted the steps that you have recommended, and this can only be ascertained with a follow up messages. Yes, we are talking about critical for success for the safety program as on when on basis. Allows you to demonstrate that it is important, what it is to be done, must communicate assessment to the employees time and again. We need to raise the standards. We'll see improvement if the first four steps are followed. Absolutely, yes. The first four steps are auditing, reacting, communicating, and probably follow up. So once we have done those follow up four steps, things can improve. Keep raising your expectation, help provided leadership as on when on basis. Solve the obvious problem, then probably fine tune the safety and the housekeeping efforts on when basis. Let's understand what can be the key points to become a good observer. Observer to find out, you need to be selective. You need to look what you know for. Absolutely, you should not look for things that you are not aware of. Practice, practice, and keep on practicing, because practice makes a man perfect. Keep an open mind. Obviously, yes, guard against the habits of familiarity. Do not be satisfied with general impression. Record observations systematically when on basis. Observe techniques. Observation techniques are very vital, and we need to figure out the things time and again. To become a good observer, a person must stop for 10 to 30 seconds before entering an area to ascertain where employees are working. Be alert for unsafe practices. Observe activity. Do not avoid the action thereof as on when on basis. So yes, the observations technique is to remember ABBI or ABI is look above, look below, look behind, and look inside. This is one of the best thing that goes around it. ABBI. Again, I say look above, look below, look behind, and look inside. Develop a questioning attitude as in why certain things are happening and how do we figure it out as on when on basis. Use every of your senses of sight, your senses of smell, your senses of hearing, and probably your senses of touches. All the four senses, if you can go at it, you can always include the fifth sense of intuition that your mind tells it to you, probably which you cannot observe, which you cannot see, but something in your mind might there is certain things that is not in a proper fashion or proper order. So inspection, and let us look at the field observation thereby. Use a checklist. Best methodology, least lest you forget something. Use a checklist. Ask question as on when on basis. Take notes. Respect lines of communication every now and then. Draw conclusions as to what can be how it is to be done. Now, let us look at the unsafe acts or the wrong behavior of the employees because of which things might go out of proportion, out of hand. Conduct that is unnecessarily increasing the likelihood of injuries. This are the behavior, these are the act that comes around it. We are talking about all safety rules and procedures. Violations are unsafe acts as on basis. All unsafe acts should be corrected immediately. If we are looking for unsafe condition. One is unsafe acts, the other one would be unsafe condition per se. So unsafe condition is a situation not directly caused by the action or inaction of one or more employees in an area that may lead to an incident or injury if uncorrected. This is what we are looking forward to. Unsafe conditions are normally beyond the direct control of employees in an area where condition is observed. How do we go across it? What and what doesn't works out? So we are talking about audit practices. What is it? Concentrate on people and their reaction, because actions of people account for approximately 96% of all injuries. Remember, it is your behavior, it is your act, it is your negligences which causes 96 percentages of all injuries. When to audit, where to audit, how much to audit is all about auditing as on when on basis. Let us look at the barriers per se. Now, there might be a lot of barriers. It might be the feeling of us versus them. It might be the counterproductive beliefs, the myths that one person or a group of person can start believing in. The myths needs to be discarded. The fear, the stress that binges upon the employee's mindset, the lack of participation. Remember, the lack of participation is because of lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge leads to more of an ignorance, and probably the confidence vanishes over into the thin air. We are talking about poor communication, the sins of the past, as the case might be. We are talking about the lack of responsibility. wherein people don't have the courage or attitude to take up the senior most positions roles so as to have a responsible attitude towards the workplace. We are talking about lack of intervention. Intervention need not be done only by the supervisor, need not be done by only by the superiors, let's say the managers, the directors, or the management, but can be done by anybody within the vicinity. It can be your co-worker, it can be your team member, it can be a subordinate. They need to sensitize what needs to be done. The lack of consistency, lack of leadership is other things that actually makes quite of big of an impact. And definitely, yes, never ignore the fact that we often are following age-old rules, age-old tradition, age-old procedures, things which are obsolete and probably are not as pertinent or as effective in today's parlance per se. So yes, we are looking at services, industrial safety consulting, construction safety consulting, ergonomic counseling, industrial hygiene consulting, safety management, as the case might be. This needs to be done. We are looking at consulting every now and then. Ergonomics consulting, industrial hygiene, safety management. Let us look at the services before we wind up this particular presentation. It is all about the training services, the training course, the training centers, if you are looking into it. Yes, people should be trained more often than not. In fact, training removes a lot of misconceptions altogether. Believe me or not, when people, when management, when leaders think that training is basically a wastage of resources, wastage of time, wastage of money, wastage of effort, but unconsciously they should be aware that training solves a lot of problems, lot of accident and lot of injuries. This is where we are looking at training services, information services, as in the library services, the video library and the publication thereof, where people can access and probably get themselves educated as to the hazards of the work environment. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the end.